My name is Caroline Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and 8 months ago, I stood in a courthouse hallway while my ex-husband's $800 an hour attorney told me I'd never see my children again if I didn't accept their custody offer. 20 minutes later, I handed the family court judge a burgundy folder containing 347 pages of evidence that not only proved I was the stable parent, but exposed my ex-husband's systematic campaign to alienate our children from me while hiding assets, forging documents, and coaching our kids to lie in court evaluations. The judge awarded me sole custody on the spot. My ex-husband's lawyer was sanctioned $15,000 for ethical violations, and the private investigator I'd hired, a retired FBI forensic accountant who I'd paid my last $8,000 to, became the most valuable investment I'd ever made. But this story doesn't start in a courthouse. It starts 4 years earlier in a marriage that looked perfect from the outside and was rotting from the inside, with a man who loved control more than he ever loved me. Please like and subscribe if this resonates, but only if it genuinely does. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one who had to become a detective to protect their own children. I met Marcus Mitchell in 2014 when I was 26 and he was 29. I was a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital in Denver, working night shifts and loving my job despite the exhaustion. He was a commercial real estate broker, charming and ambitious, with expensive suits and a confidence that felt magnetic. He pursued me relentlessly. Flowers to the hospital, surprise lunch deliveries, texts that said, "Thinking about you at exactly the right moments." Within 3 months, I was in love. Within 8 months, we were engaged. Within a year, we were married in a beautiful ceremony at a resort in Aspen that his parents paid for. The red flags were there from the beginning, but I was too young and too in love to see them. He criticized my friends. "Why do you waste time with Lisa? She's so negative." Sarah is a bad influence. She's divorced and bitter. One by one, my friendships faded as I internalized his criticisms and stopped making time for people he didn't approve of. He managed our finances. "You're terrible with money, babe. Let me handle it. I do this professionally." I handed over my paycheck, got an allowance for personal expenses, and never questioned where the rest went. He made all major decisions: where we lived, what cars we drove, how we decorated, when we had sex. "I know what's best for us. Trust me." I told myself this was partnership, that strong men lead and smart women follow, that his control was actually protection. I got pregnant with our daughter Emma in 2016. Marcus was thrilled, a beautiful daughter to spoil. Emma was born in March 2017, and I took 6 months of maternity leave. When I tried to return to work, Marcus said no. "The baby needs you home. Daycare is full of sick kids and neglectful workers. You're a nurse. You know the risks. Stay home. We can afford it." We could afford it because Marcus's income had grown substantially. He was making $180,000 a year. We lived in a nice house in Highlands Ranch, drove new cars. Money wasn't the issue, but my identity was. I loved nursing. I loved helping sick children. I was good at my work, and it gave me purpose beyond being Marcus's wife and Emma's mother. "Don't be selfish," Marcus said when I pushed back. "Our daughter needs her mother. What kind of woman puts her career above her child?" I stayed home, told myself it was temporary, that I'd go back when Emma was older. Our son James was born in 2019. 2 kids under 3. I was drowning in diapers and exhaustion, and Marcus was working longer hours, traveling for deals, coming home irritable and distant. The criticism intensified. "The house is a mess. What did you do all day? I work 12-hour days and you can't even have dinner ready?" I was caring for 2 babies alone. Marcus refused to help with nighttime feedings, diaper changes, or any actual childcare, but in his eyes, I was failing. When James was 6 months old, I mentioned maybe looking into part-time nursing work. Just a few shifts a month to stay current, to feel like myself again. Marcus exploded. "You want to abandon our children? Put them in daycare so you can play nurse? What's wrong with you?" "I'm not abandoning them. I just want—" "You're being selfish and ungrateful. I provide everything." You have a beautiful home, healthy children, a comfortable life. And it's not enough? You want more? I dropped it, told myself he was right, that wanting anything for myself was selfish when I had so much. But the resentment grew. I was isolated, no job, few friends, completely financially dependent on a man who controlled everything. I felt like I was disappearing, becoming nothing but Marcus's wife and Emma and James's mom. The emotional abuse escalated. Marcus yelled at me regularly, called me lazy and stupid, told me I was lucky he put up with me. He punched walls when he was angry. Never me. Always the wall. Always with the implication that I was pushing him to violence. "You make me so angry I can't control myself," he'd say, fist through the drywall while I shook with fear and the children cried. I thought about leaving, but I had no money. He controlled all accounts and I didn't even have my own credit card. No recent work history, no support system, and I was terrified of losing my children in a custody battle against a man with money and a high-powered attorney on retainer. So I stayed and planned. I started documenting everything. Photos of the holes he punched in walls, audio recordings of his screaming episodes. Colorado is a one-party consent state. I could legally record conversations I was part of. Screenshots of bank statements I could access showing his spending on strip clubs and expensive dinners that weren't with me. I reconnected with my old friend Lisa, secretly, meeting for coffee when Marcus thought I was at the gym. She helped me open a secret bank account using my maiden name at a different bank. I started saving money any way I could, skimming $20 from grocery money, selling my old nursing textbooks, tucking away the occasional cash gift from my parents. In 2 years, I saved $8,400. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Hidden. Protected. I also consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys during free initial consultations. Each one told me the same thing. Document everything. Financial records, his behavior, your relationship with the kids. Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, but evidence of abuse and financial misconduct matters in custody and asset division. I documented. Meticulously. Quietly. Building my case while pretending to be the obedient wife he wanted. In January 2023, Marcus came home and announced he wanted a divorce. I was stunned. What? Why? I'm not happy. Haven't been for years. I want out. Later, I'd discover the real reason. He'd been having an affair with a 25-year-old marketing coordinator at his company. He wanted to marry her, start fresh, leave his dumpy housewife behind. But he didn't tell me that. He just said he was done and that I should make this easy. His version of easy, I'd get the kids every other weekend, he'd keep the house and most assets, and he'd pay minimal child support. "You can get a job now," he said. "You've been home long enough. Figure it out." I told him I needed time to think. That's when he brought in the lawyer. Marcus's attorney was a woman named Victoria Stanton, a partner at one of Denver's most prestigious family law firms, with a reputation for destroying opposing parties in custody cases. She was everything I wasn't: powerful, polished, connected, and ruthless. The initial custody filing was brutal. Marcus was seeking primary physical custody with me having supervised visitation only, pending a full evaluation. The grounds? I was mentally unstable, unemployed and unable to provide financially for the children, and had isolated the children from extended family and normal social development. Every accusation was a lie or a twisted version of truth. I wasn't mentally unstable. I was depressed from years of emotional abuse. I wasn't unemployed by choice. Marcus had forced me to stay home. I hadn't isolated the children. Marcus controlled all our social interactions and had cut off my family. But lies told confidently by an expensive attorney carry weight. Victoria's strategy was clear. Portray Marcus as the successful, stable breadwinner and me as the unstable, dependent, unfit mother. If they could make that narrative stick, Marcus would get custody, I'd get nothing, and he'd pay minimal support because the children wouldn't be with me. I couldn't afford an attorney like Victoria. The initial retainers I was quoted ranged from $15,000 to $35,000. I had $8,400 saved and no income. I found a lawyer willing to work with me, James Rodriguez, a solo practitioner who'd been practicing family law for 12 years. He was honest about my situation. You're at a disadvantage. Marcus has money, a big firm, and he's already shaping the narrative. We need evidence, hard evidence, that you're the primary caregiver and he's unfit or manipulative. Do you have anything like that? I showed him what I'd collected: photos, recordings, bank statements. This is good, but we need more. We need to prove he's been deceptive, that he's coaching the children, that he's hiding assets. Can you afford a private investigator? How much? A good forensic one? Probably $5,000 to $10,000. I had $8,400. If I spent it all on an investigator, I'd have nothing left for attorney fees beyond James's reduced rate. Do it, I said. I'll figure out the rest. James connected me with a woman named Patricia Moreno, a retired FBI forensic accountant who now did private investigation for family law cases. She was 58, no nonsense, and had a 94% success rate in finding hidden assets and fraudulent documentation. Honey, she said in our first meeting, men like your husband always think they're smarter than everyone else. They get sloppy. We'll find what he's hiding. I paid her $8,000, everything I had. I was betting my entire savings on her ability to save me. While Patricia investigated, the custody evaluation began. Colorado requires a child and family investigator, CFI, in contested custody cases. A court-appointed evaluator who interviews both parents, observes interactions with children, and makes recommendations to the judge. Our CFI was a man named Dr. Robert Chin, a psychologist who specialized in high-conflict divorce cases. The evaluation involved individual interviews with each parent, observation of each parent with the children, interviews with the children. Emma was 6, James was 4, old enough to have opinions. Review of submitted documentation. Collateral interviews with family members and others who knew the family. Marcus was performing. I could see it from the first observation session. He was playing super dad, attentive, patient, engaged with the kids in ways he'd never been during our marriage. He'd taken 2 weeks off work for the evaluation period, something he'd never done for a family vacation. And worse, the kids were different with him. Stiff, like they were reciting lines. During my observation sessions, Emma and James were natural, laughing, relaxed. But when Dr. Chin interviewed Emma privately, she said things that broke my heart. Daddy says Mommy is sad all the time and doesn't want to take care of us. Daddy says when we're with Mommy, we have to be very good because she gets overwhelmed easily. She was repeating Marcus's words. He'd been coaching her. James, at 4, was less articulate but said, "Daddy's house is fun. Mommy's house is boring." Marcus had moved into a luxury apartment with a pool and game room. I was staying in a 2-bedroom rental that I could barely afford with temporary support payments. Of course, his place seemed more fun to a 4-year-old. Dr. Chin's preliminary report was devastating. While both parents appear to love the children, Mr. Mitchell provides greater financial stability and structure. Ms. Mitchell appears depressed and overwhelmed. Preliminary recommendation would be primary custody with Mr. Mitchell, with Ms. Mitchell having regular parenting time once she demonstrates improved mental health and stable employment. I was losing. Marcus's lawyer sent a settlement offer. Marcus gets primary custody, I get every other weekend. I go back to work immediately. Child support will be calculated based on imputed income of $50,000 per year for me, even though I hadn't worked in 6 years and couldn't possibly make that right away. The kicker: if I rejected this offer and lost at trial, they'd seek supervised visitation only and ask me to pay Marcus's attorney fees. Victoria Stanton cornered me in the courthouse hallway after a preliminary hearing. "Ms. Mitchell, you need to be realistic. You have no job, no income, you're admittedly depressed. Judge Morrison doesn't like mothers who can't provide stability. Take the deal. Otherwise, you'll never see your kids again except through plexiglass at a supervised visitation center." She said it with a smile. Friendly advice from one woman to another. Absolutely confident I'd crumble. I looked at this woman in her $3,000 suit, with her law degree from Columbia, with her decades of winning custody cases by destroying women like me. "I'll see you in court," I said, because Patricia had just sent me her report. And everything was about to change. Patricia Moreno's investigation took 6 weeks and uncovered a web of deception so comprehensive that even James, my attorney, was shocked. The report was 347 pages organized into 7 sections. Section 1, Hidden Assets and Financial Fraud. Marcus had told the court his annual income was $180,000. Patricia proved it was actually $380,000. How? He was receiving commissions from real estate deals that were being paid to an LLC he'd set up in his father's name. The checks went to his father, who then transferred the money to a separate bank account Marcus controlled. Total hidden income over 3 years, $600,000. He'd also been transferring money into cryptocurrency accounts, $85,000 in Bitcoin that he'd purchased and never disclosed. He'd taken out a $50,000 loan against his 401k, claiming it was for home repairs, and used it to pay for the luxury apartment he'd moved into and gifts for his girlfriend. Section 2, Systematic Alienation of Children. Patricia had installed monitoring software on the children's tablets, which I still had access to as they used them at my house. She captured text messages from Marcus to Emma. "Mommy doesn't have enough money to take care of you. That's why Daddy needs to be in charge." Voice memos Marcus recorded himself making and had Emma listen to. "Remember, when the doctor asks you questions, tell him Mommy gets mad easily and yells a lot. Tell him you feel safer with Daddy." Videos of Marcus coaching James. "Say you want to live with Daddy. Can you say that? I want to live with Daddy. Good boy. Say it like you mean it." The evidence was nauseating. He'd been systematically coaching our children to lie, manipulating them to say things that would hurt my custody case. Section 3, Evidence of Affair and Marital Misconduct. Patricia traced Marcus's spending and found $47,000 spent on his girlfriend over 8 months. Jewelry, trips, her rent, clothing. Hotel receipts showing he'd been having the affair for 11 months before asking for divorce. Text messages between Marcus and his girlfriend, obtained through a data recovery service on an old phone Marcus had thrown away, discussing their plans to get rid of Caroline and start a new life. In Colorado, adultery doesn't impact divorce settlements. It's a no-fault state. But evidence of spending marital assets on an affair partner? That matters. And evidence of deception to the court about reasons for divorce? That matters for credibility. Section 4, Falsified Documents. Remember how Marcus had told the court I was unstable and had mental health issues requiring treatment? Patricia found that Marcus had forged a letter on letterhead he'd created claiming to be from a therapist, stating that I'd been in treatment for depression and anxiety, and the therapist had concerns about my ability to parent effectively. The therapist didn't exist. Marcus had made it up entirely. He'd also submitted a daycare estimate claiming it would cost $4,000 per month to put the children in care if I went back to work, justifying why he needed primary custody to avoid that expense. Patricia called the daycare. They'd never given him that quote. The actual cost? $2,200 per month for both children. He'd falsified evidence submitted to the court. Section 5, History of Domestic Violence. While Marcus had never hit me, Patricia documented the holes in walls. I'd taken photos, obtained police records showing 3 times neighbors had called about loud arguments. Police had come, but I'd been too scared to press charges, and found medical records showing I'd gone to urgent care twice for anxiety attacks that were actually panic attacks triggered by Marcus's rages. She also got declarations from 2 of my old friends who'd witnessed Marcus yelling at me, saw the holes in walls, and could testify to his controlling behavior. Section 6, Coaching and Manipulation of CFY Process. Patricia discovered that Marcus had paid $500 to a custody coaching consultant, a person who specializes in teaching parents how to manipulate custody evaluations. She obtained emails between Marcus and this consultant with advice like, take time off work during evaluation to show you're available. Have the kids' favorite foods and activities at your place during observation. Mention the mother's depression multiple times, but frame it as concern. Tell the kids that if they don't say they want to live with you, they'll have to live somewhere scary. The last one was child abuse, using fear to manipulate children in a custody case. Section 7, Actual Parenting History. Finally, Patricia documented reality through school records showing I was listed as emergency contact, attended all conferences, volunteered in classrooms. Medical records showing I'd taken the kids to all appointments, knew their medical histories, was the contact for their pediatrician. Interviews with teachers, pediatrician, neighbors, all confirming I was the primary caregiver and Marcus was largely absent. She also obtained Marcus's work calendar through a subpoena, showing he'd worked 60 to 70-hour weeks consistently for years, traveled frequently, and had rarely been home for dinner or bedtime. The report was devastating to Marcus's case. Patricia had documented not just that I was the better parent, but that Marcus had committed fraud, perjury, and child manipulation to try to win custody. "This is enough to win," James told me, holding the report like it was made of gold. "This is more than enough. This destroys his credibility completely." Will the judge believe it? The evidence is documented. Bank records, text messages, videos. It's not he said, she said. It's facts. And Caroline? The forged therapist letter alone could get him sanctioned, possibly charged criminally. We filed a motion to modify the custody evaluation based on new evidence. Submitted Patricia's full report. Requested an emergency hearing. Victoria Stanton filed a response calling Patricia's investigation a biased witch hunt and claiming the evidence was obtained improperly. It wasn't. Everything was legal. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. Marcus started calling me, texting, showing up at my apartment. "What did you do? What lies did you tell? You're going to destroy our family." I documented every contact, every text, every violation of the no-contact order the court had put in place. He was unraveling, and I was finally fighting back. The hearing was scheduled for 2 hours. It lasted 4.5. Judge Elizabeth Morrison was a 62-year-old former prosecutor known for taking no shit and having zero tolerance for liars. She'd been on the family court bench for 15 years and had a reputation for cutting through performance to find truth. We arrived at 9 a.m. Marcus was there with Victoria Stanton and 2 associates from her firm. A show of force meant to intimidate. I was there with James Rodriguez, Patricia Moreno, called as an expert witness, and the burgundy folder containing 347 pages of truth. Victoria started with confidence. "Your Honor, this hearing is unnecessary. Ms. Mitchell has submitted a report from a biased investigator making wild accusations based on circumstantial evidence. My client has been nothing but cooperative throughout this process. He's the stable parent, the breadwinner, and he deserves primary custody." Judge Morrison looked at the report summary James had filed. "Ms. Stanton, the accusations include forged documents submitted to this court, hidden assets totaling over $600,000, and video evidence of your client coaching the children to lie during the CFI evaluation. Those aren't wild accusations. Those are serious allegations of fraud and child manipulation. I'm going to hear the evidence." Victoria's confidence flickered. "Your Honor, if I may—" "You may not. Sit down. Mr. Rodriguez, call your first witness." James called Patricia Moreno. For the next 90 minutes, Patricia methodically presented her findings. She brought bank statements showing the hidden income, screenshots of the LLC documents linking Marcus to his father's business, cryptocurrency transaction records, the tablets with the coaching videos and messages, the forged therapist letter with analysis showing the letterhead was created in Microsoft Word, not professionally printed. The falsified daycare quote with testimony from the actual daycare director confirming they'd never provided that estimate. Marcus's emails with the custody coach. She presented it all calmly, professionally, with exhibits marked and documented. She explained her methodology, her credentials, her process. Victoria tried to poke holes. "Ms. Moreno, isn't it true you were paid $8,000 by Ms. Mitchell? Doesn't that create bias?" "I was paid for my time and expertise. The evidence is what it is regardless of who paid me. Bank records don't lie. Videos don't lie. Forged documents speak for themselves. But you're not a licensed investigator in Colorado. I'm a former FBI forensic accountant with 22 years of experience. I don't need a PI license to analyze financial records and digital evidence. And everything I obtained was through legal means, subpoenas, public records, and data recovery from devices Ms. Mitchell legally had access to. Victoria sat down, looking less confident. Judge Morrison looked at Marcus. Mr. Mitchell, did you create a fake therapist letter and submit it to this court? Marcus's face went red. Your Honor, I can explain. Yes or no? I was trying to show the court that Caroline has mental health issues that affect her parenting. By creating a fake letter from a non-existent therapist? Mr. Mitchell, do you understand that's perjury? That you submitted false evidence to this court under penalty of perjury? Victoria stood up quickly. Your Honor, my client made a mistake in judgment. Your client committed fraud, Ms. Stanton. Sit down. The judge looked at the coaching videos, watched Marcus telling Emma what to say, watched him practicing with James. Her expression grew colder with each clip. Mr. Mitchell, you coached your 6-year-old daughter to lie to the court-appointed evaluator? I was preparing her for the questions. I didn't want her to be confused. You told her to say her mother yells a lot and gets mad easily. Is that true? Does Ms. Mitchell yell at the children regularly? Well, sometimes. Dr. Chin, you're here today. In your evaluation, did you observe Miss Mitchell yelling at or being aggressive with the children? Dr. Chin, who'd been sitting quietly, spoke up. No, Your Honor. My observations showed Miss Mitchell was patient and appropriate with the children. Her interactions were natural and warm. And yet the children told you she was unstable and angry. Why do you think that was? Dr. Chin looked uncomfortable. In light of this new evidence, I believe the children were repeating what they'd been told to say by their father. Judge Morrison nodded grimly. Ms. Stanton, does your client have anything to say about the hidden $600,000 in income? Victoria whispered with Marcus. He looked pale. Your Honor, those commissions were paid to my father's business. But used by you. The bank records show transfers directly to accounts you controlled. You told this court you made $180,000. You actually made more than twice that. You hid assets during a divorce proceeding. That's fraud, Mr. Mitchell. I was trying to protect my assets. From your wife? The mother of your children? The woman you were legally obligated to support? Mr. Mitchell, you don't get to hide assets because you don't want to share them in a divorce. The hearing went on. James called me to the stand, let me tell my story. The abuse, the isolation, the way Marcus had controlled every aspect of our lives. I showed photos of the holes in walls, played audio of him screaming. Victoria tried to make me seem unstable. Ms. Mitchell, you admit you're depressed? I was depressed because I was in an abusive marriage. I'm in therapy now. I'm on medication. I'm healing. But you haven't worked in 6 years. How do you plan to support the children? I'm a registered nurse. I've already reached out to my former employer, and they're willing to hire me back on a part-time schedule initially, full-time when the children are in school full day. I've maintained my license and certifications. I can support my children. On a nurse's salary? Mr. Mitchell makes $380,000. $380,000 that he hid from the court while claiming he made half that to reduce child support obligations. At least my $65,000 nursing salary will be honest money. Judge Morrison looked like she might smile. That's enough, Ms. Stanton. By 1:30 p.m., the evidence was in. Judge Morrison took a 30-minute recess to review everything. When she returned, her expression was stone. I've reviewed all evidence presented today. I've watched the videos, read the financial documents, examined the forged letter. I've listened to testimony from both parties. Here's what I find. Mr. Mitchell has systematically lied to this court. He's hidden income, forged documents, and most egregiously coached his young children to make false statements in a custody evaluation. He's committed fraud, perjury, and child manipulation. Ms. Stanton, your client's behavior is reprehensible, and your characterization of the evidence as wild accusations suggests either you didn't properly vet his claims or you were complicit in misleading this court. Either way, I'm sanctioning you $15,000 for ethical violations. You'll pay that amount to the court within 30 days. As for custody, I'm awarding sole legal and physical custody to Ms. Mitchell effective immediately. Mr. Mitchell will have supervised visitation only until he completes a co-parenting course and psychological evaluation. He will pay child support based on his actual income of $380,000. That works out to approximately $4,800 per month for 2 children. Additionally, Mr. Mitchell will pay Ms. Mitchell's attorney fees, the full amount, including the private investigator costs. You lied to the court, sir. You tried to manipulate your children. You don't get to benefit from that behavior. Finally, I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to the forged documents and perjury. Ms. Mitchell, your children will come home with you today. The court will arrange for supervised pickup of their belongings from Mr. Mitchell's residence. You'll receive written orders within 48 hours. We're adjourned. The courtroom was silent for 3 seconds after Judge Morrison's ruling. Then chaos. Victoria Stanton was yelling about appealing, about how this was a miscarriage of justice, about how Judge Morrison had overstepped. The judge ignored her and left the bench. Marcus just sat there, pale and shocked. He'd been so confident he'd win, so sure his money and his lawyer and his performance would convince everyone I was the problem. He'd never considered I might fight back, that I might be smarter than he'd given me credit for, that I might have been quietly documenting everything while he thought I was too stupid and broken to pose a threat. James squeezed my arm. You did it. You got your kids back. I couldn't speak. I just cried. Huge, relieved sobs that I'd been holding in for months. Patricia hugged me. I told you we'd find what he was hiding. Men like him always underestimate their wives. The supervised pickup happened that afternoon. Marcus had to hand over Emma and James at the police station with an officer present. The kids were confused but happy to see me. Mommy, Daddy said we couldn't live with you anymore, Emma said, hugging me tight. Daddy was wrong, baby. You're coming home with me. Forever. The transition wasn't easy. Emma and James had been coached for months to believe I was unstable, unable to care for them, that Daddy's house was better. Undoing that psychological damage took time. I found a child therapist who specialized in parental alienation, Dr. Susan Park, who was patient and skilled at helping kids process manipulation. Emma especially needed help understanding that her father had lied to her, used her, hurt her for his own benefit. It's not your fault, sweetheart, I told her over and over. Daddy made bad choices. He asked you to say things that weren't true. That was wrong of him. You didn't do anything wrong. Slowly, over weeks and then months, the kids relaxed. They stopped being afraid I'd get mad or overwhelmed. They stopped performing for me. They just were kids again. James forgot most of what Marcus had coached him to say. He was only 4, and the memories faded quickly once we were away from Marcus's influence. Emma remembered more, and it hurt her. She felt betrayed by her father, confused about what was real and what was manipulation. Therapy helped. Time helped. My consistent presence helped. Marcus's supervised visitation started 6 weeks after the hearing. 2 hours every Saturday at a supervised visitation center with a counselor present to monitor interactions and make sure he wasn't trying to alienate the children further. He hated it, complained constantly to his lawyer. Not Victoria, she'd been sanctioned and he'd fired her, hiring a new attorney who was marginally less expensive. Filed motions to modify. Every motion was denied. The child support payments started coming in, $4,800 a month, based on his real income. Suddenly, I could afford a decent 3-bedroom house, could buy groceries without anxiety, could get the kids nice clothes and toys and activities. The attorney fee reimbursement came through, $23,000 covering James's fees and Patricia's investigation costs. I'd spent everything to fight Marcus and was reimbursed in full. The criminal referral resulted in Marcus being charged with perjury, for the forged therapist letter, and fraud for hiding assets in divorce proceedings. He pleaded to reduced charges, falsifying evidence and contempt of court, paid $12,000 in fines, got 2 years probation. His real estate license was temporarily suspended pending an ethics investigation. His reputation in Denver's commercial real estate community was destroyed. Word spread quickly that he'd lied in court and hidden income. Clients left. Deals fell through. His girlfriend left him 3 months after the custody ruling. Turns out, dating a man who's criminally charged and financially ruined isn't as appealing as dating the successful broker with money to burn. My parents, who'd been quietly supportive throughout, helped me get back on my feet. My dad paid for 6 months of therapy for me and the kids. My mom flew out from Oregon to stay with us for 2 weeks after the custody ruling, helping with childcare while I transitioned back to work. I was hired back at Children's Hospital, part-time initially as I'd planned. The nursing supervisor who interviewed me said, "We never wanted to lose you. We're glad you're back." Working again felt like breathing after being underwater for 6 years. I was good at my job. I helped sick children. I had purpose beyond Marcus's control. My income started at $65,000 for part-time work. Within a year, I was back full-time making $95,000. Combined with Marcus's child support, I was more financially stable than I'd ever been in my marriage. I refinanced the house I'd rented into a purchase with help from a first-time buyer program. The kids had stability, their own rooms, a backyard. Home. Marcus's visitation graduated from supervised to unsupervised after a year. He'd completed the required counseling, psychological evaluation, co-parenting course. He could have the kids every other weekend and 1 evening per week. But the damage was done. Emma was cautious around him, afraid to trust him fully. James was fine, but didn't seem to miss him much during our weeks. Marcus had destroyed their relationship by trying to weaponize it. I started dating again, cautiously, only when the kids were with Marcus, never introducing them to anyone until I was very serious. 2 years after the divorce, I met Daniel, a high school history teacher who was kind and steady and everything Marcus wasn't. Daniel understood my trauma, gave me space to heal, never pushed for more than I was ready to give. We've been together 18 months now. Emma and James adore him. He's patient with them, plays with them, shows up to their soccer games and school concerts. Last month, Emma asked me, "Is Mr. Daniel going to be our stepdad?" "Would you like that?" "Yeah, he's nice. He doesn't yell." The bar is low when your previous male role model was Marcus, but Daniel clears it easily, where everyone is now. It's been 2.5 years since that courthouse hearing, since I handed Judge Morrison a burgundy folder and watched Marcus's world implode. Emma is 9 now, thriving in 3rd grade, taking gymnastics and art classes. She's creative, funny, empathetic, becoming the person she was meant to be without Marcus's manipulation. James is 6 in kindergarten, obsessed with dinosaurs and Legos. He barely remembers the custody battle, which is a blessing. Marcus is 36, working as a real estate agent, not broker, he lost his license, at a smaller firm. He makes about $90,000 now, a fraction of what he made before. He has the kids every other weekend. They tolerate him, but don't prefer him. He remarried last year, a woman named Jennifer who's nice enough but seems overwhelmed by his baggage. She has her own kids from a previous marriage. Their blended family is chaotic from what Emma reports. I'm 34, working full-time as a pediatric nurse, raising my kids in a stable home, dating a wonderful man who treats me with respect. I'm happy, genuinely, peacefully happy. Patricia Moreno became a friend. We have coffee every few months. She tells me about her other cases. I'm not unique, she says. Lots of women are underestimated by controlling men who think they can lie their way to winning. "You were smarter than him," Patricia told me last time we met. "You planned, documented, saved money even when you had nothing. You fought back when he thought you'd roll over. That's why you won." I think about the version of myself from 3 years ago, isolated, depressed, terrified, convinced I'd lose my children to a man with money and power. That woman saved $20 at a time from grocery money. That woman secretly recorded abuse. That woman consulted lawyers and planned her escape while pretending to be obedient. That woman was stronger than she knew. And when the moment came, when Marcus's lawyer told me I'd never see my children again, that woman handed a judge a folder and burned Marcus's lies to the ground. If you're in a similar situation, trapped in a marriage with someone who controls you, afraid you'll lose your kids if you leave, please hear this. Document everything, every lie, every manipulation, every financial discrepancy. Save money secretly. Plan quietly. Build your case before you reveal your hand. Don't let expensive attorneys intimidate you. Evidence beats money. Truth beats performance. Documentation beats charm. Hire the best investigator you can afford. Patricia cost me everything I'd saved, but she gave me everything that mattered. My children. Courts care about facts, not feelings. Stop trying to explain how you feel and start proving what happened. Your abuser will underestimate you. Let them. Use that to your advantage. I won my custody case not because I had more money or a better lawyer. I won because I was smarter, more thorough, more prepared than Marcus ever expected me to be. He thought I was weak, broken, too stupid to fight back. He learned otherwise when Judge Morrison awarded me sole custody and ordered him to pay for the privilege of me destroying his lies. The folder I handed that judge, 347 pages of documented truth, changed everything, not just the custody ruling, but my understanding of myself. I'm not the helpless victim Marcus tried to make me. I'm the woman who saved every penny, documented every lie, hired the right help, and fought back. I'm the woman who got her children back, and I'm the woman who sleeps peacefully now, knowing my kids are safe, stable, and with the parent who actually deserves them. If you're fighting a custody battle against someone who's lying and manipulating the system, share your story in the comments. You're not alone. Drop your location and time zone. Let's build a community of parents who fought back and won. Like and subscribe if this resonates, but only if it does.